Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's live onboarding. My name is Tim from Ledger, and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a Ledger Nano X via Bluetooth on an Android phone. As I already pinned in the comment, this is also possible from iOS, but today we're going to be using an Android phone because that is the phone that we have through our work, our team collective phone. So I'm going to set that down. Most of the stream today, as far as the setup process, is going to be done from this view right here. Let me switch it. And let me go ahead and get this. Looks like we have a little bit of a glare. Let me see if I can kind of adjust this. Undo that glare a little bit. Well, that's okay. That'll work out pretty good. Okay, so we have the Nano X, we have the Android phone, and we're going to be going and setting that up. We have main shot. We've got Brady in the chat. He'll be moderating for us. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat, and Brady will do his best to answer all your questions. This setup is actually probably, hopefully, going to take not quite as much time as the setup on desktop. Although I will be still answering some questions and providing some good information during the setup process. Some good best practices, things to keep in mind. Brief explanations of how things work. Again, if you have any further questions, drop it in the comments. Brady's going to do a great job to help you out with that, to answer your questions. And then after I get done with this setup, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to answer some more questions from the chat. And there's a couple topics that I want to talk about. We'll go over that later, but just some things that have been becoming more prevalent in the crypto world and that I want to make you guys aware of. So without further ado, let's get into this setup. Let me switch back to the Nano shot. Okay, for now I'm going to set the phone to the side. We're going to focus on this box right here. So this is a Ledger Nano X. Unbox it. So right when you unbox it, you have your actual device right here, Nano X. We'll set that down right here for a second. We're going to open this up. We're going to come into here. You'll see there'll be this hard case right here with all your recovery sheets, which we'll go over in a minute what those mean. We're going to pull one out and set it down because we're going to be using that for our setup today. And we'll stick the other ones in here for a future time. So you have your getting started book, which tells you exactly how to use the device, how to set it up. If you don't have, even if you do watch this video, it is a good idea to read through this book just to make sure you're doing everything correctly. But for us, we're going to go ahead and stick it in. And then probably the most exciting thing is the stickers that comes with. So yeah, go ahead and stick those back in as well. And underneath this packet, you'll see you have a cable. And then under here, I can pull it out. You have a cool little keychain that you can hook in. You can slip this through right here. Your Nano. And then you can slip this through and you can have it like on a keychain if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and put this back in because it kind of gets in the way for the demonstration. Okay. And we're also not going to be using the cable today. We're going to be doing everything from Bluetooth from the Nano X. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the cable back for now. I am going to put this back and I'm going to get all this out of our way. Okay, let's move that out of the way. We'll set the Nano down. Bring our recovery sheet over, and we'll bring our Android phone over. Okay, so the very first thing is going to be to power up the device. To power up your Nano X, you simply hold the left button for a couple seconds, and it'll immediately power up. Full disclosure, I did already go in and charge up this Nano to make sure that we had enough battery power. You see the little battery indicator right there. If you do get a new Nano straight out of the box, there is a chance that the battery may have run down if it's been sitting on the shelf or it hadn't been plugged in for a long time. So make sure that when you first unbox your Nano X, you may have to plug it into a power source for a little bit to let it charge up if you're planning on connecting via Bluetooth. So let's just go through real quick how to use the device. So you can see here it says, "Welcome to Ledger Nano X." Press right button to continue. So the right button is going to be this button right here to the right. Left button's right here. So right, we'll scroll to the right, left to the left. And then to make a selection, you press both buttons at the same time. So let's scroll and see what it says. All right, so it wants us to download Ledger Live, which we already have. Ledger Live is already downloaded on this phone as an app. So you'll see that in a minute. And then it's telling you how to use the buttons to navigate. Press both buttons to select. And then to access the control center and the settings menu, you would hold both buttons for a few seconds. So we'll just keep on going. So now you're given two options when starting up any Nano, the Nano S, the Nano S Plus, and Nano X. You can either set it up as a new device, or you can restore from recovery phrase. And so the only time you would want to restore from recovery phrase is if you have already set up a Nano in the past, and you already have a 24-word recovery phrase. And let's say you lose your Nano gets stolen, God forbid, or it gets broken. These are all very scary situations for users. However, let's switch back to the main shot so you can make it a little more personable. These are all very scary situations for users, and we get a lot of support tickets like, oh my gosh, my Nano's broken, it won't turn on. I dropped it in a cup of water. Someone stole it. Whatever. Situations happen, and it's really important to understand that your Nano is very important, and it's a great device. Personally, I love my Nano, but it's not the thing that is the most important when it comes to your crypto assets. The thing that it really matters is the 24-word recovery phrase that we're about to generate from this Nano. And the reason that is because your 24-word recovery phrase can be used to restore access to your accounts at any time. You don't need your Nano. All you need is your recovery phrase. And so if you were to, and those things were to happen, then let me switch back to the Nano shot now. You would want to select this option to restore from recovery phrase. And then that would allow you to input your recovery phrase back into the Nano, one word at a time in the correct order. And then it would instantly, the new Nano would instantly become a clone of your original Nano. And it would give you all the same access to all your exact same accounts, as long as you get every word correct. So we don't want to do that, though. We want to set it up new. So we're going to set it up as a new device. And this is going to generate us a brand new 24-word recovery phrase at random. So, and as you can see, it's not plugged into anything. This device is not connected to anything, no internet. So this is completely offline, and there's no chance that anyone can be seeing what's happening on this device right now. So we're going to set it up. First step is choose your PIN. This is an important step. However, it's not as important as a lot of people think. And before I get some hate on that, let me clarify. So we're going to set our PIN for the sake of this demonstration just to 1, 1, 1, 1. And we're only going to make it a 4-digit PIN. You see how after you enter 4 numbers, it's going to automatically default on that check mark to let it be a 4-digit PIN, but you can actually make it up to 8 digits. All you have to do is press the right button or the left button to scroll up or down, and you'll see that you can enter more numbers if you want. And let's say there's a number that you mess up, you'll see this little symbol right here. It's a little back arrow with an X in it. Let me actually lift that up a little, if I can get it to focus so you can see that symbol. It's kind of visible, but either way, that's what it looks like. And that'll actually let you go back to the digit before that. But we're going to keep that as a 1. And we're going to do that. We're going to confirm that with a little check mark. And then we're going to re-enter it again to confirm the PIN. 1, 1, 1, 1. Now, I do recommend, let me switch back to the main shot. Now, I do recommend when you set up your PIN to make it complicated. Not so complicated that you can't remember it. Obviously, it's just numbers, so you can memorize any, 4 to 8 digit number. But the reason it's important is because if someone were to steal your Nano, you don't want a PIN that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 1, because that's going to be the first thing people guess. And there is a really cool security feature with the Nano. And that is if someone does steal your Nano and they try to enter in a PIN to try to guess your PIN, you only have 3 attempts. And after you enter an incorrect PIN 3 times, automatic factory reset of your device. There's no way to get around that. You can't reset the device. You can't turn it off and on to reset that counter. That counter will always remain. So 3 times incorrect, automatic factory reset, no more private keys, no more access to any accounts from that Nano. And it will come right back down to the welcome to Ledger screen next time you turn it on. And that also can be scary for users. because that does happen sometimes. You forget your PIN. You're like, I know this. You enter it in 3 times incorrect, then your nano resets. Well, that's actually not too big of a deal as long as you still have your recovery phrase. If you have your recovery phrase, then at that point you would just choose the option to restore from recovery phrase, and then you instantly have access to your accounts again. So make sure you keep this very, very safe. We'll go over some more best practices on how to do that here in a minute, but let's continue with the demonstration. Okay, back to the nano shot. All right, so we're going to write down our recovery phrase now. So I'm going to click both buttons to continue. And then your device is going to generate your words. They are your recovery phrase. This is your backup to restore your accounts if needed. It's telling you to write it down. It does a pretty good job telling you what to do, but a lot of people tend to kind of flip through this and don't really realize the full importance of the recovery phrase. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as I'm writing these things down. I'm getting better at multitasking during this process. All right, cool. So you see the first word is sport. Now, on this sheet, this is a Nano X sheet, so it's going to be numbered 1, 2, 3, top to bottom. So 1 through 12, 13 through 24. If you happen to have a Nano S Plus, on the Nano S Plus sheet, it's actually a little different. In fact, I have one right now. Let me grab it and show you. On the Nano S Plus sheet, it's a little bit different. So on the Nano S Plus sheet, you'll see that it's actually labeled. Oh, look, actually they changed it. So never mind. Disregard everything I just said. On the old Nano S Plus sheets, it was labeled this way, but now it's this way. So, but it still does look different. They changed the layout a little bit. To be honest, I kind of like these sheets a little bit better than S Plus. I like how it folds. It's a little bit smaller. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. Make sure you have the numbering correct when you're writing down your phrase, because if you did have to restore your recovery phrase, and let's say I wrote down sport, then the next word here, and I did it like that, and then when I went to go restore access to my my account, if I were to like lose my nano or got reset, and I tried to input the words in the incorrect order, then it will not give me access to my accounts. It would give me a totally different recovery phrase that almost 100% has never been used, and there will not be any crypto in those accounts. So let's just continue with this real quick. All right, so first word, sport. Make sure you write this nice and legibly, unlike my own messy writing. Try to do it nice and slow. All right, second word, balance. All right, so I will just go ahead and kind of go through this and explain a little bit more about what these words are. So this is your recovery phrase words. All recovery phrases are derived from a master list of words called the BIP 39 word list. And this is a list of 2,048 total possible words that all recovery phrases derive from. And all accounts are derived from the recovery phrase that you get. And so hopefully if Brady has it available, maybe he can send a link to the BIP 39 word list in the chat. That way you guys can take a look at it. But it's no great mystery. These words are public knowledge. Anyone can look at it. But there's some really cool things about these words. So first and foremost, hang on a second. This is actually kind of hard to multitask, so let me just go a minute. Okay, so now that I got more words down, let me finish this row real quick. We can get a little bit more data down to show you. Okay, cool. So now we have the first 12 words down. So one thing you'll notice if you go to the BIP 39 word list, you'll notice that each word it's uniquely identifiable by only the first 4 letters. So even though like balance has more than 4 letters, there's no other word on the word list that starts with BALA. It's just balance. So technically, you don't even need the rest of the word. Weekend, week is not on the BIP 39 word list. There's no other word that starts with WEEK. So technically, all you need is that. I mean, write down the entire word when you do it to keep things easier. But if you were to like back up your seed phrase in Steel, for instance, with those systems, and we can talk more about that here in a minute, but with those systems, they'll actually only allow you to put in the first four letters. And so that's something to keep in mind if you were to try to like increase your security by backing up your seed phrase in Steel. And the setup process can be pretty confusing because of that. So fire grade part. All right, once we get done with this next row, which will be our entire 24-word recovery phrase, I'm going to show you something else that's a pretty big pain point for a lot of users. Okay, cool. So we have our words written down. Right now, I'm going to switch to the main shot to talk about it. So one thing to keep in mind about this word list about your seed phrase is Ledger does not have access to it. We have no way to know what a user's seed phrase is. When a seed phrase is set up on a Nano, that happens locally on the device, and it never leaves the device. And after you set up your Nano X, Nano S, Nano S Plus, stacks, if you have one pre-ordered, will work the exact same way. After you set it up, there is no way for you to get your words out of this or your private keys. Once this is set up with this recovery phrase, this then acts as a key that can access your accounts, but you cannot get the information from it. And this is another security measure. Like, let's say someone, did steal your Nano, and if they had your PIN, they would be able to obviously unlock it and sign transactions from it. But let's say this person is, an electrical engineer of some sort, or let's say this person has skills where they can try to extract information from a chip. Well, that's not possible on these because it's stored on the secure element chip, and there's no way to get that information. And so this is actually blocked off from the user as well for security reasons. And this is to keep our users safe. So this is the only copy, and that's why it's so important when I was talking about backing up your seed phrase in Steel. That gives you kind of another option rather than having your words on this flimsy piece of paper, where if you have a house fire, if you have a flood, these words can very easily go bye-bye. Let's see if I have one in here. Actually, I think it's out there actually. So we'll show you another demonstration. Actually, Brady, if you can give a link to the Crypto Steel Capsule or the Crypto Tag Zeus, some of our other products that people in the chat can check it out if they want to, and then I'll just kind of move on from that. But it's a really cool way to back up your seed phrase. Whereas if there is some kind of a natural disaster, you don't really have to worry about it. Even a house fire, basically your words are tamped into steel and it's not going to burn up in a fire. So yes, so let me switch back to the Nano shot. So the next thing kind of got a little derailed there, but the next part after you write down your words is you have to verify your words to continue. So you go like that. You're going to confirm your recovery phrase. And this is really important because this will let you know right off the bat if there's any issues. So now the device knows each one of your words because it just generated them, and it knows the correct order. And so it's going to ask you to go in and verify that. And so if you wrote down your words incorrectly at this point, you're not going to be able to get past this point, and it's going to error out. It's going to tell you it's not the correct recovery phrase, and it's going to make you start over. But this is really important because you don't want to make any mistakes during this process. Because if you ever did have to restore access to your accounts, then it would be incorrect. So go through, gives you a few options. We're just going to go through and make sure we get all those correct. Although And now it does do it at random, so it'll give you a few options, and you basically just go and find your word. It is a little bit different than if you were to restore from recovery phrase. If you were to have to regain access to your accounts and use the option to restore from recovery phrase to input your word for the first time, it's going to look a little different. It's going to give you a string of letters that you're going to be able to select. And this is where the part where each word being uniquely identifiable by only the first 4 letters will come in, because as you enter letters, the Nano is going to be able to narrow down to the correct word after only 4 letters. And so for people that aren't informed about the BIP 39 word list and how it works, that can be kind of like a little alarming. It's like, how does my Nano know which word I'm trying to input? I've only input 4 letters, and that's the reason, is because there is no other word that it can be after you've entered 4 letters. Okay, this is probably the longest part of the process, but it's also the most important part. So we want to make sure we get this right. Obviously, I'm not going to be using this, and I'm not going to be loading any crypto onto this. This is just for demonstration purposes. So, if anyone's writing down these words, it's not going to yield anything. This is going to be deleted as soon as we get done with this. So right here, this is where it'll tell you how important this is. And if you get this message, your recovery phrase is set, that means that you did not make a mistake in that process. If you entered a single word incorrectly in the wrong place, then you're going to get something that says your recovery phrase does not match. Please try again. And you're going to have to turn it off, turn it back on. You're going to have to reset and try again. So this is explaining how important your recovery phrase is. Keep it in a secure place. If it's lost, stolen, forgotten, all your assets will be irredeemably lost. Or irredeemably, yeah. Okay. So never share it with anyone. Ledger will never ask for it. That's very important. Ledger will never ask for it, and that includes a Ledger Live application. You will never need to provide your words to anyone for any reason. If anyone ever asks you for these words, including an application that you downloaded from the internet, then it is most likely trying to scam you out of your assets, except for in very specific circumstances. And let me give you an example. Occasionally we'll get a user who has a very old device, a Nano S, or any old device, where the firmware on the device, let's say it's been sitting in their safe for the last 3-4 years. They haven't touched it. They've been just hodling away. Then they go to access their Bitcoin account or whatever account, and their device suddenly cannot connect, and it's not recognized by their computer because they haven't been keeping up with their updates. And so either way, it cannot connect anymore. So at that point, that person would have to import their recovery phrase back into a Nano, into a new hardware wallet, and they would be able to recover access to their accounts. Now, let me throw out a very hypothetical situation that, trust me, will not happen. But let's say Ledger, the company, went bye-bye, and there's now no more Nanos that you can get, but you still have your recovery phrase. You can actually import your recovery phrase into a software wallet, into an application on the computer manually to generate your accounts and regain access to your accounts. This is important to know, just for peace of mind for our users, that we do provide a fantastic service. I've been using these products since before I even worked here. I love these products, but it's a lot. It's a lot of trust to put into one company, but you don't really have to trust us. All you have to trust is yourself. And that's why we put that card that says trust yourself in there, is because if you keep this 24-word recovery phrase safe and secure, completely offline, then you'll always be able to regain access to your accounts one way or another. So definitely remember that. All right, let me switch back to the Nano view. Okay, so our device is ready. Let's switch. Now you have to go to the dashboard, and right there. So you'll see Install App and Control Center. So this button right here, it can be a little confusing at first, but people will think that this is how you get to the control center. So if you click on it, press both buttons to select it, this is just going to tell you how to get to the control center, because without a tutorial, we found that a lot of users were like, hey, how the heck do I get to my settings menu? I'm just trying to change my pin lock settings. So I'll show you how to do that. So instead of going to the control center, you're just going to hold both buttons for 3 seconds, and that's going to pull up your settings menu right there. You can also do other things. In fact, we're going to want to come here and make sure Bluetooth is enabled, because we're going to be connecting to this phone via Bluetooth. So we have Bluetooth enabled. You can see this is Nano X. This is the Bluetooth pairing key right there, AEEA. We're going to have to keep that in mind for when we actually do the pairing. And we come over here, go to the settings. We're going to go to security. And then we're going to go to pin lock. I'm actually going to put no pin lock. And then I'm going to go to screensaver. Oops, wrong way. I'm going to go to screensaver. And I'm going to put no screensaver. I actually don't recommend doing this for normal users day to day, because it is important that your device does eventually time out and go to the pin lock. That way, if you leave it sitting on your desk or something, someone can't grab it, because remember, if your device is unlocked with your PIN and someone were to get it, then they technically could sign transactions from it. So the PIN lock is important to keep your device locked up when you're not there. But for this demonstration, I don't want our device to time out while we're trying to connect it to Bluetooth, because that's a very common reason that people have Bluetooth connection issues. So I'm going to go ahead and take this 24 word recovery phrase, sorry, and I'm going to put that in a very safe place. Honestly, I'm just going to probably destroy it and throw it in the trash after this. But for the sake of this demonstration, this should be going straight into our safe, into a safe or a lockbox, somewhere safe. Okay. Now without further ado, let's actually get this Nano X connected to this phone. So same pin for the work phone. See, we have Ledger Live right here. We'll go ahead and open that up. Okay. Hopefully we can see this okay. Got a little bit of a glare, but we should be able to get this going. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Yes, I do own a Ledger. We want to set up a Ledger like that. We have a Ledger Nano X. And then, so right here, if you just downloaded the app and you have not set up your recovery phrase yet, and your Nano X still says welcome to Ledger, it's on the screen, you can choose this option, and this will actually walk you through everything we just did, which is pretty cool. But since we already set up our recovery phrase and our device is already initiated, we're already ready to go, we're just going to go straight to connect your Nano. I'm going to select this. It's telling you to check the box contents. This is important. So if you read this, it says, if your Ledger Nano X came with a PIN code or recovery phrase, it's not safe to use and you should contact Ledger support. We're going to pause here for a minute, go back to the main shot so we can talk about this a little bit. So there is a not so common scam. We actually don't see it very often, but it does exist and we have seen it, and it is possible. The way the scam works is boxes will be intercepted and resold, and these nanos will be set up by scammers with a PIN code, with a recovery phrase, and then they will print out a recovery sheet, and sometimes they even make it look like a scratcher ticket. It looks pretty official. For someone who doesn't know, it's like, it's plausible. Okay, yeah, maybe this is from Ledger. Maybe this is how I generate my recovery phrase. It seems legitimate enough. Well, it's not. The only safe way to generate a recovery phrase is completely offline, where you can be absolutely certain nobody else could have possibly ever had eyes on it, and that's from your device. Your device will generate your recovery phrase for you. If it comes on a piece of paper or a scratcher ticket or a sheet, immediately contact us. And we're probably going to want that to be sent, and we'll send you a brand new one, but we're going to want that back so we can check it out. So let me switch back to the Nano Shot. We did not receive this in the box. We generated our own recovery phrase, so we're going to go ahead and safely continue. And now we're going to pair our Nano. So we already went to the control center and we made sure Bluetooth is enabled. One other thing, let's go down right here. If you have an Android phone, make sure your location is turned on. If your location is, we're going to turn that back on. I didn't mean to hit that. If your location is not turned on, then you'll have issues connecting to Bluetooth. And also, of course, make sure your Bluetooth is turned on as well. Go back here, pair our Nano. We're going to pair with Bluetooth while using this app. We're going to grant it permission. Cool, look at that. It sees our Nano X. So we're going to select that. Looks like it's picking up the stacks too. That's kind of cool. So we're going to select the Nano X. And then we're going to pair and connect. And we see the code 908920 is a match. I'm going to go ahead and pair. And then we're going to confirm on the Nano. Device authentication check. This is the genuine check. So what this is doing right now, the same thing happens on desktop, but this is happening over Bluetooth. We allow Ledger Manager, and right now, Ledger Live application is scanning our firmware that's installed on this device and making sure it's genuine. If anyone were to have tampered with this device in any way, if they were to change the hardware, if they were to try to change the firmware, if they were to try to change anything about this device that is different than what we expect to see, it's going to be picked up guaranteed by Ledger Live right here. And if you fail the genuine check, it then becomes impossible to install Nano apps. It becomes impossible to create accounts. And so it's another fail-safe to make sure that users basically can't get wrecked. So we're going to go ahead and continue. And as you can see, we're in. So now, now that we're in, what we want to do is we want to add an account. So let me go ahead and add an account. We're going to do it with your Ledger. And let's go ahead and just add a Bitcoin account. See what happens. So it's checking app dependencies. It's seeing if we have the right app, which we did not install the Bitcoin app, but let's just see what this does. Oh, it looks like it's automatically installing the Bitcoin app for us. So that can take kind of a minute. It's a little bit longer over Bluetooth than it would be over cable. Oh, and another thing while this is loading, if you do have an Android phone, you can actually use a USB-C to USB-C cable. We sell official Ledger cables, but if you have your own USB-C cable, it'll most likely work. Like for instance, I use this cable right here to connect to my phone, and it works great to my Android phone. But we also do sell USB-C to USB-C cables on our website for this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open the Bitcoin app now that it's installed on our device. And so this part of the process can actually take kind of a minute. I'm going to keep it on this view so you can watch it as it works. So right now it's synchronizing. And so what's happening right now is we just installed the okay, let me back up actually a little bit. So we have our 24-word recovery phrase stored inside this Nano. Now, all crypto accounts can be derived from a 24-word recovery phrase. So that's what's happening when it's synchronizing. And now the Bitcoin app that we installed, that gives the Nano the tools it needs to communicate with the Bitcoin blockchain and to derive Bitcoin accounts with the recovery phrase that's stored in here. So it's still synchronizing. There's different types of Bitcoin accounts. The most commonly used type of Bitcoin account is native SegWit. And so that's usually the one that we recommend people to install to import into their Ledger Live, because most exchanges use a native SegWit Bitcoin account structure. And also it's backwards compatible with all the other ones. So let me stop scanning for a minute and see what happens. Okay, let's look at more address types. Okay, so you see there's Taproot and SegWit. Taproot's actually a newer one. We won't talk about that for a minute, but the SegWit, and there's also the legacy Bitcoin address. If you do have legacy or SegWit Bitcoin address, your native SegWit account will work with that. It's backwards compatible with the ones before it. So we're just going to go ahead and add the native SegWit. And then we're going to see our assets. And of course, we don't have any Bitcoin on here. This is a brand new recovery phrase, but now we have a Bitcoin account. So now we can receive Bitcoin. And then you'll see right here, verify my address. This is kind of cool. We'll go, so you can reveal your address without verifying, but this is just another layer of security that we offer to help people have peace of mind that they don't have any malware, that they're not being fooled in any way by their phone, because phones are pretty easy to fool. Whereas your Nano device, the screen on your Nano is considered to be law. Like it will not show any details that aren't accurate. And so if there were some kind of malware that was, you know, changing the details on your phone, it would be different on your device. Let's see what that looks like. Reveal our and verify on our device. So then it'll give you the address there, and then it'll also give it to you on your device, and you can go through character by character and verify that it is accurate. And so I'm just going through it right now, and I can already tell that this is accurate. But if I were actually sending Bitcoin, personally, I would go through each and every character, because you just, like, why risk it? If a mistake is made at this point and funds are sent to the wrong address, then there's no recourse for that. So from here, you can scan the QR code, or you can just copy it. If you're using like a mobile exchange app, you can copy it there, paste it in. I already cleared it, but actually one other thing that I like to do is leave the address on the screen of your Nano, and then you can still copy it, and then you go to the exchange and the address is still on your screen, and then you can paste it in, and then you can verify it after you pasted it in. It's just another little trick that you can do. So we're going to exit out of that, and now we've fully set up the Nano X with the with a Android phone via Bluetooth. Let me switch back to the main shot. Now that we have that set up, I can kind of take some time to go through and answer some questions from the users. I haven't really been monitoring the chat, but I can already see that Brady's been on it, which is awesome. Thank you so much, Brady. Yeah, so one other thing I want to talk about is real quick before we get into some other stuff. While we're still on this topic, so you see that I added this account to my mobile app. Now I can go like this. If I were to go here to help and reset Ledger Live, it's going to tell me to uninstall and reinstall Ledger Live. And if I were to do that, it would erase all the data. It'll no longer have that account that we just added, and it'll be like a fresh Ledger Live. Now, this is one point that a lot of users get kind of freaked out. Sometimes they'll send us a ticket, and rightly so. I mean, you know, you're used to your imagine logging into your Chase bank account or your bank account app, and it's wiped clean and there's nothing there. That would be a very scary thing to do and to have to go through. And the same thing can happen, you know, with Ledger Live, and it's actually more common with Ledger Live because your crypto is not actually stored on Ledger Live. Ledger Live doesn't really store anything except for the public wallet address that you give it when you add an account. For that reason, I could reset this Ledger Live, and as long as the recovery phrase is still the same in here, if I were to go back, let's say I sent 10 Bitcoin to my that app right now, and there's 10 Bitcoin sitting on there, and I were to accidentally let's say I were to lose my phone breaks, and I get a new phone, I download Ledger Live, and it's like, shoot, where's my Bitcoin at? I know it was on that phone, but it wasn't on that phone. Now you can go in and you can add a Bitcoin account from your Nano to your new phone, and it will pull in the exact same account details. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter how many devices you can import with this key. With this Nano device, you can import your accounts into as many different software wallets as you'd like, as many different applications as you like for Ledger Live. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Like if you ever get your Ledger Live reset or anything, just go through and add your account back in. And as long as your recovery phrase hasn't changed in your Nano, you have nothing to worry about. Now, if your Nano gets reset and Ledger Live gets reset, then you would need the recovery phrase to import into your Nano, and from there you can then add your accounts again. and instantly have access to your accounts. So yes, that went pretty smooth. I made it look very easy, but there are a lot of quirks with our Bluetooth. Some things to keep in mind if you're around a lot of other devices. So I didn't show you this, but before the video, I went into this phone and I completely I cleared all pairings, all Bluetooth pairings. Because one thing that we've noticed, and it's kind of intermittent, it doesn't affect everybody, but if you do have many devices, let's say you have an iPhone, you have your Apple Watch, you have your AirPods, you got your MacBook, you've got everything connected, and it's got all these different pairings. That could actually cause some issues sometimes with it, with your Nano's ability to connect. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If your phone is just not seeing your Nano, try resetting all your pairings. As much of a pain as that is, it may be able to get you to have get your Nano X connected. And once you're connected, you're good. Once you establish that initial pairing, then your phone remembers it, and then it's very smooth from there on out. Cool. So let me take a look. Before I switch topics and pivot really hard, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments if you want me to answer them, and I will go ahead and do my best to do that. So let me just take a look. It looks like Brady's doing a really good job staying on it. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, then in that case, I will go ahead and just pivot. And one thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is a new scan. You may have seen tweets about it. We've been tweeting about it like crazy. A lot of people have been talking about it, but it's still very mysterious. And it's a scam called address poisoning. And it sounds really, really scary. It's like, you hear that like if I become the victim of address poisoning, like, did they just like kill my account? Is it? And it's not quite that scary, but it's what's scary about it is how often it works, how many people it's catching. It's catching experienced people, catching people who know exactly what they're doing and who know exactly how all this works. And it's a social engineering tactic, is what it is. And so here's how it works. So a scammer will send zero balance transactions to a large number of accounts. And this actually, we've actually tracked it. This actually costs the scammer quite a bit, and it usually happens on ETH. It also happens on Polygon, but mostly we've seen it on the Ethereum. And so it costs the scammer quite a bit of money to do this because they have to pay gas fees for every single zero balance transaction. Even though no ETH is being transferred, the fees still have to be paid for that transaction to be written in. And so the scammer sends out zero balance transactions to a very large number of accounts in the hopes that they can trick somebody into copying a wallet address from their transaction history. And that's why when I showed you the process of generating your receive address for that Bitcoin account that we created, that's why I stressed how important it is to go through the process and verify your address. Make sure you know where you're sending this to, because with this new scam, people they get comfortable. Like let's say you buy Ethereum every week from Coinbase, and you buy $20 every week, and every week you send that $20 of Ethereum to your Ethereum account, and you're just dollar cost averaging, you're doing it right, and you know exactly what you're doing. Well, this scam is actually, it targets people that are in that situation, because when you get too comfortable, some people will get into the habit of copying wallet addresses from their transaction history instead of revealing their address, instead of doing it the right way. And because it's worked, and they've grown complacent. I hate to throw that word out, but the word is complacent. And so that's why it's really important to not copy wallet addresses from your transaction history, especially if you're sending large amounts of crypto. Make sure that you do your due diligence, because it's catching a lot of people, and it's a hard conversation to have. So yeah, and we just want to keep our users safe. We don't want anyone to lose any money. So make sure you keep that in mind. All right, cool. Let's take a look at the comments. See if I'm missing anything. Brady is on it. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, that leaves time to talk about another common scam that we see. And this one, in my opinion, this one is more scary. This one is, um, yeah, it's honestly it's quite terrible. So the way, and you may have heard about it if you browse Reddit, if you browse Twitter, people are talking about it. But it's really easy to make a fake website. Anybody can make a fake website. And you don't even have to be a programmer to make a website these days. So one of the more common scams that we see is fake versions of Ledger Live that people are tricked into downloading, and they look really good. Honestly, sometimes I'm shocked at how they look. It looks just like our application. They'll even have like the latest updates if we change the UI. Not always, but sometimes. And so what these applications will do is it will basically you'll get an error message. If you remember when we did the genuine check in on the Nano app, you do the same thing for the desktop app. And there's also actually fake scam versions of the mobile app as well. So this can happen on mobile too, where you'll be doing the genuine check, you set it up, everything's fine, and then it'll fail the genuine check, and it'll say your Nano failed the genuine check. It says different things, but basically it always ends up routing the user to input their 24-word recovery phrase. It'll say things like, you need to back up your accounts, or your Nano firmware is compromised. Please enter your recovery phrase to back up your Nano and restore your Nano. There's always some reason. It's always a scam. There is never any reason that you would ever have to enter your 24-word recovery phrase into anything, except for the situation we talked about earlier, which is a very unlikely situation. As far as there actually is one other situation. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in general, as far as your 24-word recovery phrase is concerned, you should have the mentality that you will never need it as long as you keep your device updated with the latest software, and you shouldn't ever have to use your recovery phrase. So if anybody asks for it, including an application, including Ledger Live, our official version of Ledger Live would never ask a person for the recovery phrase. So if anything is asking you for your recovery phrase, then it's a scam. Turn it off, uninstall it from your computer, and contact us, and we'll verify that for you. So yeah, that's pretty much the two main scams that we've been seeing lately, that have been the most prevalent, that have been catching the most users. And so we're just trying to spread awareness. We want people to know about this. We want people to know what to look out for. So yeah, let me look at the comments again and see what we got. Yeah, Victor, thank you. That's exactly right. You don't even have to be a programmer. You don't have to be. You hardly even have to be tech savvy to be able to do this. You can and that's why it's working so much, because the tools are out there to enable people to do these things. And so the best defense we have against this is education and awareness. I'm glad that so many people are here watching this, and hopefully this gets out to more people. Follow us on Twitter. We tweet about these things all the time. And if you want updates on the latest scams that we see, that's definitely where you want to be. So let me see. Looks like if you bear with me for 1 minute, I'm gonna go see if I can grab one of those crypto steel capsules or something, so I can show you what that looks like. 1 minute, I'll be right back. Okay, so we do have a couple. I'm not gonna. I'll show you kind of what they look like. So this is the CryptoTag Zeus right here. This one works a little bit different than the Crypto Steel capsule, which is right here. The Crypto Steel capsule is actually smaller, but it comes with all these little pieces, which is pretty cool. But let me let me go to the website and I'll show you what these look like. To Chrome. And I'm going to go to, we're already on ledger.com. Let's go to the shop. And we're going to go to accessories. And so we got CryptoSteel capsule, the Billfold, and the CryptoTag Zeus. This is the most expensive one, but it's also probably the best one. But honestly, they're all great. Personally, I use the CryptoSteel capsule. I love it. I love how small it is. You can slip it in pretty much in your pocket. It doesn't take up much room. The only thing about it is if you are hard of seeing, so basically, see the cap on the top that can untwist. Yeah, so here's some better pictures of it right here. So basically, the cap untwists in step one. You pull it out and you slip these little discs over, and each disc has a letter on it, and you build your seed phrase basically with these little discs, one letter at a time, and you only use the first four letters of each word, like we talked about earlier. But this is a really cool device. It's just that it's kind of hard to see the letters. Honestly, I think I'll probably need a magnifying glass. But if I ever have to restore access to my accounts with this thing, I much prefer that. If there's a house fire, if there's a flood, if there's some sort of a natural disaster that's going to destroy my seed phrase, like it gives me a little bit of extra peace of mind. And so it's one thing to think about if you're thinking about how to like take your security to the next level. This is one way to do that. Okay. Any time frames for Android and MetaMask? That's a good question. We can't give any exact time frame on that, although it is in the works. I know we've been saying that forever. There's just a lot of security measures that need to be, a lot of due diligence that needs to be done before we can roll something like this out. And so, if there's a delay, it just means that we're making sure everything's good to go. And once we're positive, we'll make an official announcement. And again, Twitter is the best place to hear that information firsthand. All right, let me scroll up. I think that about covers it. I can stick around for a couple more minutes. If anyone has any other questions that you'd like me to answer, go ahead and just throw them in the chat. Let's see. Looks like okay. Let's see. Okay, cool. Sweet. All right. Well, I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up for the week. I think that was the first time we've actually shown a setup via Bluetooth with the Nano X. I'd like to start doing that more. Hopefully, we can get our equipment set up a little bit more and have a better production. But it was cool to be able to show you guys how to do that because it's quite a bit different than the setup process on desktop, obviously, because Bluetooth does not work with desktops. So it has to be with a wired connection. There is one thing that I forgot to mention that I would like to throw in real quick about the Nano X. The firmware on your Nano X can only be updated via wired connection because it's a big download. So it can't happen over Bluetooth. So eventually you will need to plug, if you only use mobile to manage your crypto with your ledger, you will eventually need to find a desktop computer to update your firmware. Because eventually your firmware will get too far out of date that it will no longer be able to communicate. That process will break a little bit, and then the fix will be to update your firmware, and that'll get you going again. And one cool thing about that is you don't have to do anything with your accounts. You can update your firmware from a friend's computer, a family member's computer. You can even go to an internet cafe if you have to. I've actually helped users in other countries update their firmware by going to internet cafes, and the reason that's safe is because you don't have to share any of your private keys or any of your personal information to update your firmware. You can install, if you have a computer that you can install Ledger Live on, you can connect your Nano to it, update your firmware, and then totally uninstall Ledger Live from the computer, and it's like you were never there. And now you have your firmware update. So remember that if you are a mobile user and you start having issues with your firmware or with your Bluetooth connection, it may be that your firmware is out of date. And if you need a second opinion, if you want us to verify that for you, reach out to us on our support page, and we'll be happy to help you with that. Cool. So I think that's pretty much all that we got for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you all learned something. And yeah, if you have any questions for us, yeah, reach out to us on our support page or tweet at us. We'll do our best to respond to you. All right. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.